Hey, I'm Scott, and I'm an American in Bangkok. After my recent trip to Myanmar, I realized that in addition to the issues that were going on inside the country, there were several thought-provoking minor matters that came to light while I was traveling. One of these happened when I was on my way back from Yangon, coming back to Bangkok. I passed through immigration and I made my way over to the one restaurant in the airport. Well, at least the one that you can go to once you pass through immigration. There's one restaurant and that's it. I'd been to this restaurant before and I know they have pretty good food, and more importantly, they had espresso the way I like it and it was good, so I decided to go back. I looked around when I walked in and there was only one table left. So I grabbed a table, sat right down. I put my backpack down in one of the chairs. I put my camera bag down in another chair, and a guy came over and I placed my order. My espresso came over a couple minutes later, started drinking my espresso. I took out my laptop, and I had 90 minutes before I had to be at the gate for boarding. So I settled in, I relaxed, I put my headphones on, and turned on some music, and continued drinking my espresso. And then a family of 4 came over, and they looked around, and there was nowhere for them to sit. So they basically just walked away, and they went to their gate, I guess, and but they weren't able to eat, and they basically had to leave because there was nowhere to sit. Everybody that was passing through wanted to stop in the place and just sit there and pass the time. They didn't want to sit at the gate, so, or I guess they preferred to sit in the restaurant. So that's what most people were doing. My breakfast comes over. I'm eating my breakfast. So now, picture this. I'm sitting at this table. I got my big backpack on one chair. I got my camera bag on another chair. One chair is empty and it's kind of against the wall. And then I'm sitting in one chair. On the table, I got my espresso. I've got like a little bag that has my passport and a couple other little things in it. Some paper and a pen or whatever. My keys. I had a table for 4, and I was the only one sitting there. This guy walks in, and he's clearly looking for a place to sit. He's like in his 30s, and he's clean cut. He looks like a decent guy, I guess. And it seemed like he was an American, but from the way that he spoke. He was talking to the waiter and the waitress. But here's where my dilemma came about. I had this table, and I'm thinking to myself, should I be friendly and let him sit here and offer him a place to sit? Or should I just ignore him? Now, I would have had to move my bags. I would have had to basically take my headphones off with the music. I would have said, hey, buddy, if you want, come here and sit down. And so, basically I'd have to make a little effort for this guy to be able to sit down. And my first thought was, I really don't want to talk to anybody. Now, he may or may not have wanted to talk to me, but I didn't really want to take that chance. And the other thing was, I just didn't feel like moving anything. I didn't feel like moving my bags. I didn't feel like moving my plate of food so that he could sit down, and I just ignored him. So, my privacy was important to me. And I just kept the headphones on and ignored him. And then a few minutes later, I see him sitting down, and I got to go through this every day. And what they're doing is they're selling vegetables to the neighborhood. Sometimes it's good when you want the vegetables, but like right now, it's not good. Anyway, I see him after a few minutes, and he's sitting down with this middle-aged woman well, she's about my age or so, I guess. And he's just yapping away. He's deep in conversation. And I thought to myself, well, at least he got a place to sit. But I also thought to myself, this is why I didn't want him to sit down with me. Because while I may have missed out of an experience from speaking to this guy, I just didn't feel like talking to anybody. And he was very clearly a yapper, a big talker, whatever you want to call it. He was yapping away to this lady, and you know, flapping. They were flapping their gums, and fortunately, I had my headphones on. You know. But what would you have done? That's the thing. I didn't want to move my stuff. I wanted my privacy. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And although he might have been able to sit at the table, then I would have had that uncomfortable. I would have been sitting at the table, not talking to this guy with my headphones on, and we're in close proximity, and maybe I would have felt the, you know, the need or the obligation to communicate with him. Thank you very much. That's all I got. Chok di la jerk and mai.